on the news.
Civilians were crushed by tanks while sitting in their cars.
The president of Ukraine making an impassioned plea to the United Nations in the wake of gruesome attacks by Russia in the war-torn country. Teens forced to leave Ukraine welcomed with open arms by a school in Hungary. Also, why the CDC is about to undergo a sweeping review and possible changes. Plus,
we see chess as a universal game and it's a universal language.
How chess is helping Afghan refugee children adapt to life here in the U.S. I'm Christine Persichetti. Current News starts right now. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accusing Russia of war crimes against his people. The leader addressed the United Nations Security Council, saying that those responsible should be brought up on war crimes charges. Isabel Rosales has the latest.
A sobering and graphic account of alleged atrocities at the hands of Russian soldiers.
They killed entire families, adults and children, and they tried to burn the bodies.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky demanding accountability, telling world leaders Russia's actions are no different than a terror group.
The most terrible war crimes of all times we see since the end of World War II.
One big distinction, he says, Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council.
Where is the security that the Security Council needs to guarantee? It's not there.
His address comes just one day after visiting mass graves in Bucha, a massacre exposed for the world to see. A growing number of leaders, including President Biden, want Russian President Vladimir Putin on trial for war crimes.
It's a deliberate campaign to kill, to torture, to rape, to commit atrocities.
NATO is now gathering evidence to prove it, according to the alliance's U.S. ambassador. Yet the Kremlin is doubling down, calling the massacre fake. On the front lines, the violence is nonstop. Terrifying moments as a CNN crew comes under artillery fire outside Mykolaiv.
Down here, John, down here.
Danger Ukrainians face every day. In Washington, Isabel Rosales, Current News.
The Kremlin hitting back at President Biden. On Monday, Biden recommended that Russian President Vladimir Putin be tried in an international court for war crimes. This after the weekend attack in the town of Bucha. But today, the Kremlin called those accusations unacceptable and disgraceful. This as the White House says more sanctions against Russia are coming.
We do have additional sanctions that we can apply and that we will apply. We're consulting with our allies on that question now.
An Associated Press report citing a U.S. official says the U.S. and the European Union could announce new sanctions as soon as tomorrow.
We are here for Jantaya, for Melinda, for Sergio, for Devonta, for Joshua, and for Yamila.
Also tonight, Sacramento's mayor and faith leaders leading the community in a candlelight vigil as they grieve for the 6 lives lost in Sunday's tragic mass shooting. It comes as police arrested a second suspect in connection with the shooting, but for many, the damage is already done. Maricela de la Cruz spoke to a mother of one of the victims who says she learned about her son's fate after seeing it on social media.
One day after his passing,
I never wanted kids. And I said if I was to have a kid, I just wanted a boy. And I was blessed with a boy.
Sherilyn Hoy is grieving the loss of her only son, 32-year-old Joshua Hoy Lucchese, who died at the K Street shooting in downtown Sacramento this weekend. She says she was first notified by her son's girlfriend.
I got a phone call at 2:45 that my son had been shot and killed.
And minutes later saw now deleted images on social media.
It was a post of my son on the ground, dead. It was sent to me through Instagram. My son was laying on the ground, dead.
She says that although she knew it was her son, she went to the Sacramento City Hall, which was established as an information center for families of victims of the shooting.
That was Maricela de la Cruz reporting. Following the shooting, Bishop Jaime Soto of the Diocese of Sacramento called on the faithful to help restore peace, saying in a statement, "As neighbors, we ache for the tragedy that has exploded on our streets. As neighbors, we must share in the common task of healing and helping. Only then can we restore hope and peace in our communities. This must be our unrelenting response whenever violence wreaks its havoc among us." A church in Queens welcomed an Italian archbishop to the Diocese of Brooklyn, as well as a relic of the first millennial to be considered for sainthood. The relic, a piece of Blessed Carlo Acutis' heart, made its first stop at Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Astoria. There, Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan, together with Archbishop Domenico Sorrentino of Assisi, led a holy hour of prayer venerating the first-class relic. Acutis passed away in 2006 at the age of 15. The church has since credited his intervention for the miraculous healing of a Brazilian boy with a pancreatic disease. And there's still time to venerate the first-class relic yourself. Archbishop Sorrentino is bringing it to a rally for high school students at Holy Family Church in Fresh Meadows. That's on April 6th at 12 p.m. 8 high schools will be participating, and more than 300 students are expected to attend. If you can't make it to Wednesday's rally, then be sure to pick up the upcoming edition of the Tablet newspaper. It'll have full coverage of the day's events, as well as where you can find the relic next.
You're going to do great things.
We're proud of you, too.
A senior from Nazareth Regional High School feeling the love after learning he got a full ride to St. Francis College. The scholarship is in honor of former Police Commissioner Robert J. McGuire, and while it fully covers the tuition at St. Francis, it also provides $1,000 for textbooks, a free summer course, and a personal advisor. Congrats to him. New York City is keeping a mask mandate in place for children under 5 years old. City health officials say it's because COVID-19 cases are on the rise again. Mayor Eric Adams previously said the mandate could be lifted by this week, but only if cases remain low. The city is averaging just under 1,300 new cases of COVID-19 per day. Meanwhile, a new COVID relief bill is moving forward on Capitol Hill, but it won't send any money directly to the CDC. The agency is undergoing a sweeping review. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is used to scrutinizing science. Now, the agency itself is under the microscope. Its director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, says the Department of Health will conduct a sweeping review starting next Monday. In a memo to staff, Walensky says it's to improve how the agency communicates with the public and consider a restructuring. That news comes the same day as a bipartisan deal Senator Mitt Romney helped negotiate for his chamber. It's for $10 billion of COVID relief money. The measure would fund therapeutics like oral antiviral pills, and it would support vaccines, testing, and research. What it would not do is send money directly to the CDC. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he wants to vote on the measure this week.
Very briefly, over the last few days, my Democratic colleagues and I continued talks with Senator Romney and Republicans, working all hours of the night and into the weekend.
This is clearly a huge focus for the president because of the dire need we have at this moment to get this funding through.
The White House says it would like more money in the plan.
Even as we're very encouraged by the progress, we're going to need more because our objective here is to make sure we can have funding for antivirals, the vaccines needed for people for many months to come.
So what does the future look like when it comes to COVID vaccines? The FDA is debating more boosters. They'll be meeting about it on Wednesday. Just last week, the agency expanded the emergency use authorization of 2 vaccines so people 50 years and older can get a second booster as early as 4 months after their first one. Advisors to the FDA will be looking at new data from Israel on a 4th dose in older adults and discussing the possibility of variant-specific boosters. President Joe Biden wants more families to get health care, so the White House laid out a new law Tuesday that would fix what's known as the family glitch. Right now, if you don't have affordable coverage from work, you can get it through the Affordable Care Act's marketplace. The problem is the eligibility requirement only looks at single coverage policies, not family coverage, which of course makes it more expensive. The new law would change that, making more families eligible. It would go into effect at the start of next year. Catholic Benefits Association leaders are concerned about possible new regulations from the Department of Health and Human Services. They say a 74-page memo revealed that HHS is promised to revise its mandates on health plan coverage to include abortion and certain gender modification procedures. This could be a threat to religious-based employers, including Catholic hospitals. President Biden's historic Supreme Court nominee is moving forward in her confirmation process. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson now getting the backing of Republican Senators Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski. The senators have said they will vote to confirm her. A final vote in the full Senate is expected to come by the end of the week. If approved, Jackson would be the first black woman ever to serve on the Supreme Court. There's a lot more news headed your way. Parents in Ukraine making heartbreaking decisions. The story of a teenage refugee now living in Hungary. And the sentencing phase for the Parkland shooter now underway. A look at the tough decision the jury will have to make. Plus, not many have been struck by lightning and lived to tell the tale, but that isn't the case for these two Yankees fans. Their story when we return.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
As bombs fall just outside their homes, parents in Ukraine are being forced to make a heartbreaking decision, sending their children hundreds of miles away to stay safe. Matt Rivers has the story of a 17-year-old Ukrainian refugee now living in Hungary.
She's got a pink backpack, a warm smile, and she's already made friends, even though 17-year-old Alla Renska, a Ukrainian, has only been here in Budapest, Hungary, for a month.
6th of March.
In an empty classroom of her new school, we sit and talk about how she never thought she'd end up here.
No war. It's
20. It.
Yeah, it's 21st century. It's Ukraine. It's Europe. Why?
Before the war, she was just a normal teenager, making goofy videos with her friends, taking selfies. But then the war reached where she lived in Kyiv.
When did your family decide that it wasn't safe for you to be in Ukraine anymore?
When we heard explosions and our house is just like...
And your house was shaking?
Yes.
Her parents made the agonizing decision to send her to stay with friends in Budapest. Alla's dad took her to the train station on March 4th. But in the crush of people also trying to leave, they were separated.
Could you see your dad when
No.
the train was leaving?
No.
Was that hard?
Yeah. I cried maybe all night.
She took only these pictures from the train, a bleak landscape she says matched how she felt. But then, an idea. She wrote an email to Kureshi Baptist High School, one of the best in Hungary, talking about the war and what happened to her. I really want to go to school and continue studying, she wrote. I kindly ask you to help me. And help, they did. The school converted these old containers into dorms, where Alla now lives and studies. Her days are spent in classes, and at night, she chats with a few other Ukrainian girls just like her, who also fled, now living there too, even though she does still miss her family.
How difficult is it right now to not have Alla with you?
I cannot explain how I feel because it's too hard for me. I'm happy that my daughter, I love her very much. She's safe now. It's the main for me.
A few minutes later, though, the call is over, and Alla's stoic facade falters.
It's unfair. It's so unfair that I should be here. My parents there.
Again, that was Matt Rivers reporting. The UN says more than 4 million refugees have fled Ukraine since the start of the war more than a month ago. You too can help the people of Ukraine thanks to the Diocese of Brooklyn's Compostela Fund. 100% of the money collected will provide direct assistance to those affected by the war. Just make a check payable to the Compostela Fund of the RC Diocese of Brooklyn with the notation Ukraine and mail it to Diocesan Finance Office, 310 Prospect Park West, Brooklyn, New York, 11215. You can also give online at catholicfoundationbq.org/Ukraine. Catholic groups and immigration advocates are applauding a decision to end the Title 42 border policy. The public health rule will be lifted next month. Title 42 was put in place by the Trump administration. It allows the immediate expulsion of migrants and limits their legal right to seek asylum, all to slow the spread of COVID-19. The CDC says it's lifting the measure on May 23rd. The Bishop of El Paso, Mark Seitz, released this statement on the ending of Title 42, saying in part, "We felt for a long time that the federal government should be doing more, not only to process those who are making a claim of asylum, but also to help them in their movement when they come." Seitz said it has fallen to volunteer groups to do most of that work, and without any direct aid from the federal government, at least very little. The Biden administration directing attorneys for immigration and customs enforcement to consider dismissing certain deportation cases. According to a recently released memo, the cases are not arrest priorities under the agency's rules. It's the latest in a series of policy changes marking a departure from the aggressive enforcement measures put in place by the Trump administration. The American Immigration Lawyers Association has estimated more than 700,000 cases in the backlog are likely low-priority cases. The sentencing phase for confessed Parkland gunman Nikolas Cruz got underway this week. Cruz pleaded guilty last year to killing 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida in 2018. As Christina Vasquez reports, a jury is now tasked with deciding if Cruz will face the death penalty.
I don't know if relief is the right word, but relieved to be at the beginning of the end of this part.
For more than 4 years, family members of the 17 MSD students and staff murdered in one of the nation's deadliest school shootings have waited for this day.
This case stems from a school shooting that occurred on February 14th, 2018.
The start of the process to find 12 jurors who will decide if the man who confessed and pled guilty in October to murdering their children should get life or death. The judge telling prospective jurors during this first phase of selection that knowing about the case,
you will not be excused merely for that reason alone.
The qualification is I may know about it because I set it aside.
With guilt already established, jurors will be asked to be fair and impartial when it comes to sentencing.
Finding jurors who are willing to say that in and of itself is going to be a problem in this case, besides just the overwhelming number of days.
With the penalty phase expected to last 4 to 6 months, the first round of jury selection started with the judge asking prospective jurors if they think they can sit on a trial that long, and if not, why?
I have a special needs young child, and I'm going through a divorce, so I'm about to be a single mother.
Excusable hardship, she told them, included being a full-time caregiver or financial considerations.
Or cause you to lose wages to the extent that it would be a hardship.
That was Christina Vasquez reporting. 17 other people were hurt in the shooting back in 2018. The NYPD searching for 3 suspects who laughed as they attacked an elderly woman in the Bronx. This is surveillance video. Police say on Sunday morning they grabbed her purse and spun her around. The victim fell and had to be taken to the hospital with a broken hip. And police are searching for this man in the green hat, wanted for the slashing of a woman in the subway in the Bronx. He's seen here in a bodega after the attack. Police say it happened last week in the Fordham Heights neighborhood. Detectives say the victim got into an argument with the suspect before he pulled a knife. A Chicago dad and daughter miraculously okay after being struck by lightning in Tampa over the weekend. As Jamison Euler reports, the shocking experience happened right after the two went to watch their favorite baseball team, the New York Yankees.
My dad was knocked unconscious, so he doesn't remember most of it, which is he has me doing all the talking.
It's not too often 2 people get hit by lightning and live to Zoom about it. Ashley Moberg and her dad John were on their way back to Chicago and told us at least what they could remember.
We're big Yankees fans, and we had never seen spring training. So when we heard that the baseball strike had ended, we jumped on getting some tickets. And I've never been to Disney either, so we went to Disney for the first time as well.
But as they ran from a thunderstorm at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa on Saturday, the dream trip became their nightmare when they found themselves trapped under a tree and unable to locate their car.
There was a bright flash and the loud boom that I heard, and the next thing I knew, I was flying out of my shoes and my ears were ringing. I saw my dad hit his head on the ground, and then I hit the ground. I thought my dad was dead for about 10 seconds there while I was lying on the pavement trying to figure out whether I had died.
Her father hit the ground, breaking his cheekbone. The necklace Ashley was wearing burning through her neck. They went back to the scene, this time smiling and with a sense of humor.
For everyone who's asking, yes, we got superpowers, and no, we're not allowed to talk about them.
Wow, that was Jameson Euler reporting. Ashley and her father's story was even picked up on the Yankees' radar. They promised the two a couple of autographs and some tickets for whenever they play in Chicago. That's awesome. Still to come on Currents News, it's more than just a game. How chess is helping Afghan refugees adjust to their new life in America. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Afghan refugee children are adapting to a new life here in the U.S. by playing a game that originated from their homeland. While the Taliban outlawed the game of chess at one point, an elementary school in Raleigh, North Carolina is using it as an important teaching aid in the classroom. Reporter Joe Fisher explains.
It's game time for this special group of students at Stow Elementary in Raleigh. They came to learn the game of chess. Elshan Mouradiabadi is a chess grandmaster, now living in Durham. He introduced the students to kings, queens, bishops, and noble knights. The students and their families are refugees from their troubled homeland of Afghanistan, where chess, some say, was born.
Both India and Persia claim chess as its own.
Carol Meyer, executive director of U.S. Chess, says the game itself has been attacked in Afghanistan.
There was a time back in the early 2000s when the Taliban government was first installed where chess was actually banned.
With the Taliban back in control, chess may once again become a crime. Principal Chris Cox says here, the game has helped to break down barriers.
Obviously, in a new place, at a new time, feeling very foreign to them, this is something that really gives them a little bit of familiarity with something that they love, as simple as the game of chess. And again, it's why we do what we do, right? To have our kids just to see that twinkle in their eyes when they're learning. And all of these students are still trying to master the English language. And so one connection for them with the game of chess has been really, really great.
We see chess as a universal game. And, you know, it's a universal language. Today, these kids were able to move the pieces, even though they haven't yet mastered the language that we were speaking in the room.
In the end, each student took their own new chess set home.
Good for them. Not an easy game. That was Joe Fisher reporting. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.